again. Brandy Bueller, Brian David Marshall. Thoughts on the Dutch final, Dutch win in the team competition?
Boy, I think Robert had to draw an
really
exact sequence of cards.
That was
Again, we talked about it was a great game. He put himself. We were like, how can he get out of this? How can he get out of this?
He put himself in position.
He put himself in a position to win.
Chump block with Skittering Monstrosity. Chump block with Endrick Star.
Not just chump block with Skittering Monstrosity, but he had to clear a Sapperling token. That's really where the hurdle he had to jump over there. He was trading a Skittering Monstrosity for a Sapperling token.
It was the right play.
Absolutely.
Bought himself the draws, and then there was Nightshade Assassin. They still had 2 blackbirds in his hand. Took down the regenerating pro-red Monstrosity. Who do you like in the individual finals?
I think I like Dragonstorm. I think that the deck should have the ability to just force its way through. He doesn't have any ability to gain life. You can't ignore the top decking qualities, but I don't know if he'll need to top it.
I would not bet against Makihito Mihara right now.
I don't know that
I would not. I mean, if he was in Vegas betting on 7 on the roulette wheel, I think I'd put some money on 7.
I don't know that he needs to top deck. Again, he's got 4 main deck Giga Drows.
Okay.
For Ogura, and he can just tap him out. Agura's not going to do any damage very quickly. He's got 2 Faith Threaders, but he has to draw them early. And he has to be willing to use them on sort of meaningless parts of Mihara's. And we've seen that Mihara can get more than 5 dragons into play. He can do 26 damage.
He can do
off
32.
Of a Dragonstorm.
32 he maxes out at.
He'll max out at 30. Did he do 32 in one turn?
He declined the opportunity to do 32 in a turn against Nassif because Nassif was on 33, thus lulling Nassif into the false sense of security and blah, blah, blah.
Teferi is a
now, so
critical card in this matchup.
Explain to me the difference between Ogura's deck and Nassif's deck, because it seems like they're both blue-white Tron decks.
They are.
Nassif's got the Proclamation Martyr engine going on. What does Ogura have instead?
He has a Teferi Mystical Teachings package.
Okay.
So he gets to basically search for almost any card in his deck. Once there's a Teferi and play with Mystical Teachings. He has Triskelevis as his main kill card, although he also has the Urza's Factory. And basically he controls the game. He counters stuff. He's got
a little more card drawing than
He's got much more card drawing. He sets up a spell burst situation. If he has enough mana and he gets Teferi out and play, spell burst, you can't fight your way through a spell burst.
None of that sounds great against Dragonstorm, though.
It doesn't sound very good at all.
Irrelevant. So he's basically got to use permission to stop a storm-based combo deck.
Right. What it seems like he needs to do is he needs to get Teferi into play to stop Giga Drows from tapping him out on his turn. That seems to me to be the critical.
It's a little slow.
It doesn't. It's and there's only 2 Teferis, and there's not a lot of turns. Yes, he has card drawing, but if he's tapping out to use card drawing. It could very well be that Mihara will have drawn exactly the right card he needs on that turn to win. So I think that this matchup favors Mihara. I really like I really like the Giga Drows in the control matchup. I think it's going to be the defining card of this top 8.
Type 1 players have been playing Storm-based combo versus counterspells for years, though, and it's tough to beat Storm with counterspells. It just doesn't work.
Right, and Commandeer is his sort of free spell. It's his force of will, but that's just not.
No, all the Dragonstorm copies are in distinct copies. He has to try to counter the mana acceleration, right? I mean, if he can counter, the rituals, Rite of Flame, Seething Song, if he can stop those, prevent it from getting up to Dragonstorm, but he blows some of that mana acceleration. That's the plan. Use the permission to fight the mana acceleration and hope that that's good enough.
Right. You may see him, I guess, bring in a Draining Welcome. I'm not even sure. I guess Jester Scepter is going to be his big card out of the sideboard.
Sure.
It seems to me like he just not only can the card be pretty good in terms of one Dragonstorm countering another Dragonstorm or countering a Seething Song if you get it, but it will possibly just you can sort of just luck into his kill cards, right? You can luck into the last couple copies of Dragonstorm, or you could you can luck into enough dragons that he can't hit critical mass.
How expensive is Jester Scepter?
Jester Scepter is
4?
to cast.
It's tough to commit 4 main phase
I'm not saying it's great. It's just something that he could do. So, Faith Fetters again gives him turns to get the Wrath of God if it's not a 5 or 6 storm.
Maybe. I mean, we're talking about gaining enough life with Faith Fetters when Gabriel Nassif couldn't gain enough life with Faith Fetters plus a Martyr combo engine.
I agree. I said, I believe this matchup favors Mihara heavily.
I think I have to agree with you.
3-1 Mihara.
We will be right back momentarily. The players have shuffled up. They are ready to go. We'll be right back with coverage of the World's Championship match. Hello and welcome to the 2006 Magic the Gathering World Championships. I'm Randy Bueller. I'm here with Brian David Marshall, and it is time for the finals. There will be another Japanese world champion. The Japanese are going to go back-to-back. The question left to figure out, will it be Ryou Ogura or will it be Makihito Mihara? Ogura on the left of your screen, competing in his second World's Top 8. He's piloting a blue-white Triskelevis Urzatron deck built by last year's world champion Katsuhiro Mori. His opponent in this match is Makihito Mihara. Mihara piloting Dragonstorm, and he has won a couple of thrilling 3-2 victories, top decking to win Game 5 in both the quarterfinals and the semifinals. He is on fire.
Spirit-crushing victories.
Yeah. Ogura mulliganed once before this first game, and they are off to the races and underway. A couple pieces of the Urzatron for Ogura, a Lotus Bloom ticking down for Mihara.
So just a quick note, Jester Scepter costs 3 to cast, not 4. And we were talking about that in the pre-wrap-up for this. Lotus Bloom hits play.
Lotus Bloom resolves. This is usually a sign the Dragonstorm player wants to go off. I mean, they try to time it so you get the Storm.
Ogura has no resistance. He has 3 non-blue colorless lands in play.
Was that a Vesuva?
That is looks like an Academy Runes and 2
Yeah, with no blue
parts.
mana, you just go for it, right?
Game, if he has anything here, it's...
I mean, Ogura's threats are permission spells, and he has no blue mana, so it's just a question of whether Mihara can piece together the combo. I mean, it's not flying out of his hand, so it seems to require at least a little bit of math.
He may be taking a little more time with his decisions at this point. He came close to...
Well, there's Rite of Flame. There's...
He just put out
hard cast Bogren and Hellkite.
We've seen him do that multiple times in this top 8.
Yeah, it seems like a reasonable plan. Force your opponent to deal with a 5/5. See if he can, and then while they're busy dealing with a 5/5, you're piecing together the next bit. Ogura missed a land drop. He's got nothing. He's got no colored mana at all.
Got multiple...
handful of permission and card drawing spells, and a Faith Fetters that could potentially deal with that dragon. But he needs white mana, and he needs it in a hurry. And meanwhile, Mihara is just loading up for next time. Another piece of the Urzatron for Ryou Ogura. Drops it. Got 1 draw phase left. Mihara may be able to finish him off here. I see Seething Song and Dragonstorm in his hand. He knows the deck list. He knows his opponent can't do anything. He just attack for 5 and storm out another Hellkite, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. I guess he's 1 mana short. No white mana for Ryou Ogura, so wow. No white, no blue, no action.
No problem for Mihara.
Makihito Mihara just hard cast Bogren and Hellkite, and that was good enough to get the job done. 3 attacks and 1 187 triggered ability. And we've got a 1-0 lead for Makihito Mihara.
It's interesting watching Mihara play. I mean, a lot of players have, talked about Dragonstorm. You end up putting all your eggs in one basket. If someone, people are playing Wrath because it's so good against the Dragonstorm deck. Mihara seems to have adapted his play style to the Wrath of God scenario.
It's true. It's a good point. He's playing the deck, very differently. I'm just used to seeing this deck just go for it. And no, he's like, I could Dragon Storm now, but why?
You have to deal with this dragon in
5/5
fairly
flyer.
short order. And again, dragon backed up by Remand is a pretty quick game. I mean, even if Ogura had a plains there for the Faith Shredders that were in his hand,
right?
There was a Remand in Mihara's hand.
And a Dragon Storm.
And a Dragon Storm.
Yeah, pretty interesting strategy for the Dragon Storm player. I like it.
Yeah, he's like, deal with my first threat, I'll build up my hand, and then I'll try to kill you when you're done. When you've wrathed me, when you've faith fettered me, whatever it is you're going to do, I have a second team that's going to come out and take the field. So let's see. I wonder if we can find out a little bit about how they're sideboarding. I'm curious if Ogura's bringing in the Scepters. He's certainly bringing in the COP Reds and the extra Wrath. Does he bring in Annex? Mihara. He doesn't have to bring in his Trick Bind for this game. It was an exciting.
That was useful in the semis against Gabe Nassif.
Yeah, it was an exciting. He's certainly not going to bring in Pyroclasm. Probably not going to bring. I don't know. Maybe he brings in his own Teferi, just as a way to get through Teferi. A card that was really interesting this weekend. I also saw Kai playing this in his Dragonstorm deck, just out of the sideboard. Is protecting his hand was Ignorant Bliss.
Huh.
It was an exciting card. Just put your hand away, trade it for a card. I believe on the next upkeep. Right. I believe it's a slow trip.
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah. So you just a quick little duck of hand destruction. Not something that's going to become relevant in this match. What's also kind of interesting, his sideboard has 2 more lands.
Interesting.
So it sounds like Ogura did bring in the Scepters and the Circle of Protection Red.
I think he's got one Trick Bind as well. Our list is wrong. It's a typo.
Sounds like the Triskelevises are out of the deck.
Really?
Yeah, it sounds like the Triskelevises are out of the deck to make room for the Scepter. So maybe his plan is to deck Mihara. Because again, 3 Scepters represent 15
Urza's
cards.
Factory.
And Urza's Factory. But the three Scepters represent 15 cards.
Potentially.
And if he can, again, there's only 7 relevant cards that he has to worry about from Mihara. There are,
4 Bogart and Elk.
In terms of real, you parlay the Dragonstorm into, 4 of them sometimes.
Right.
But he has to worry about the 4 Hellkites, the 2 Hunted Dragons, and the Teferi. So, interesting to see. I wonder if he has 3 lands in his sideboard. That's amazing. How many lands is he playing in his main deck? He's playing 2, 10, 18, 22 lands. Before Lotus Blooms, he has the ability to go up to 25 lands.
I've always been a big fan of playing in the sideboard. There's just matchups where you want more.
Right. I just think that's very interesting. We've talked a lot about in the past about Japanese decks, how they tend to have this sort of transformative quality.
True.
And this is a little more subtle than some of the sideboards we've seen in the past, but the ability to transform in terms of the number of lands that you need to operate your deck, or how long or short you feel the game is going to go.
Right.
Yeah, that's a fairly sophisticated sideboarding strategy. 3 lands in the sideboard is quite a bit.
Yeah.
And they're all storage lands, so I wonder what specific purpose he has for those. I would definitely like to ask him about that after the match. Forms are back up.
So if you're Makihito Mihara's friends right now, you're trying to figure out where the nearest casino is, right? Is it Monte Carlo?
Just drag him there?
I think so. Put him right on the craps table. Let him go.
Osawa's waiting outside the room, ready to go. He's got his bag packed. Train ticket purchased.
I mean, you're going to have another $40,000 to spend, too, right? If he wins this thing. I mean, I joke about it. He's obviously had a couple of lucky top decks, but at the same time, I really think that in both occasions, it required a lot of setup on his part.
Absolutely.
Like, he played in the quarterfinals, he had to find the scenario. It turns out, he had to find the scenario to give himself a chance to win, and then lo and behold, okay, he set it up, the repeal, I have to draw this card. Oh, my God, there it is.
Right.
He clearly deserves some credit for that, even though at the same time he also clearly got very lucky. And in the semifinals, the same way. He actually worked his ass off to set that situation up against Gabriel Nassif.
Absolutely. And we talked a lot about Nassif's mental game and his ability to influence his opponent's decisions through the cards he plays and his body demeanor. And Mihara
I think Mihara
beat
totally
Nassif at his own game there, which is very impressive and speaks
it really
boatloads about his
ability. He got Nassif comfortable in a situation where he was, in fact, one card away from dying. All right, we're off in game 2. There's actual colored mana on Ryou Ogura's side of the board this time. I'm sure he's happy about that.
Impulsive Research.
There's no Lotus Bloom from Mihara.
Nope, he lets it go. At least wants him to show some respect to Remand. Says stop for a second.
Would you have kept Ryou Ogura's hand in the first game?
I guess am I on the play? I'm down to 6 cards.
He'd already mulliganed once, right?
Maybe.
He'd already mulliganed once, and he's got 3 lands, but no color.
Yeah, the first mulligan really hurts you. It really impairs your decision-making ability. People are very, very reluctant to take that second mulligan.
Yeah.
Especially if you have land and spells. You have to, you feel like you're going to draw some colored mana. If he draws an island,
if he's got 3 land, he's really got several turns to draw the blue land.
But he still gets to develop his mana for a couple turns before he draws a land to cast a spell he needs to cast.
That's right. That hand looks like Remove Soul. It's interesting. Jester Scepter.
Remove Soul is very interesting considering the way
the way Mihara plays that deck.
Yes.
He's often just banging out 8 mana for a Hellkite.
And it's also an answer to Teferi's.
He's trying to decide what to discard with Compulsive Research.
Don't forget removing Teferi's Soul.
Sure.
Pretty important. Boy, Mihara really does not betray much. He sort of has that same stoic expression. It reminds me a little bit of Ishida at the table. It's a little more kind of dour looking. Ishida's just very placid.
Ogura's got the look of someone who has to discard 2 spells to Compulsive Research. And there they are. A Commandeer and a Jester Scepter.
Why the Commandeer? That's what I'm curious about.
Doesn't do that much, does it?
Does it?
Oh, Commandeer Mystical Teachings. My apologies.
Doesn't really seem that... again, how are we doing on lands here?
Well, we just top-decked an Urza piece. That was good. Plays a Signet. And here comes another Signet. Gets to leave up a potential remand. Turns out it's a Remove Soul. No action yet from Mihara.
There is a Giga Drowse.
Yeah. Giga Drowse, Seething Song, Telling Time. Is it time for Jester Scepter?
Did you think Jester Scepter was a tournament card when you guys made it, or did you think it was a fun card when you made it?
Both. We thought that there were scenarios where it was reasonable. We didn't think it was super powerful, but this is probably about how we pointed it.
Okay.
It'll show up, it'll sneak into some people's sideboards. There might be matchups where this is in fact the kind of thing you want. Oh yeah, I'd say this is about where we imagined it. And then clearly a fun card.
Oh, absolutely.
A lot of fun moments possible with that.
Looks what's really interesting about it is, unless you have a way to search through your deck, you don't know what's under there.
Right, exactly.
You don't know what from your deck is under your opponent's Jester Scepter.
Right. That's where all the cool moments come from.
And, against a Dragonstone player, that could be potentially, let's call it interesting.
Compulsive Research dug out 3 lands for Ryou Ogura.
Trying to decide if he wants to keep an Urza's piece or... so scary playing against the Dragonstorm deck. You're just so scared.
You never know.
But the
they're going to
thing
explode.
is, I think ultimately you just have to do the things you need to do on your turn in this situation, like where you don't have life gains, because if he has Giga Drowse, you're just done. If he Giga Drowses all your mana, you're just cold.
So he's tapping out for Gesture Scepter.
We're getting a telling time in response.
Yeah, well, this will let him, he gets a reshuffle out of it, right?
Yep.
He gets to put a card on top and then not have to draw it. So it turns telling time into a little closer to Impulse.
Yep. Looks like he
kept the Seething Song. Wait, I assume, does Gesture Scepter shuffle or no? You just get to know one of the cards under it.
Right.
I think it just takes the top 5, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so he knows one of the cards. How fun. Mihara hit a Bogarden Hellkite on the
that's
bottom.
awesome. That's
What is
really
it?
great.
Telling time,
3 lands and a Rite of Flame.
We know something you don't know. And here's another telling time. Mihara Ogura wishes he had enough mana to counter it, but does not. This is Mihara's window, right?
It is.
He's got his blue-white opponent tapped out.
He's got a couple Seething Songs in hand.
Did you see a Dragonstorm, though?
No, I think I saw him take a telling time. Number 4.
Yeah, see a sleight of hand.
Some lands.
Bunch of blue cards. That's not a Dragonstorm. That's not a Dragonstorm. 2 Chivalries. One goes to the bottom, one goes to his hand. Does he have enough mana to do another card drawing spell to try to get off here?
He can do it at the end of turn if he wants. I don't think he's...
Yeah, with those Giga Drowses, it's not that hard to get him tapped out. He's got what?
Really, unless you have Rewind in your sideboard, you don't really have a good answer to Giga Drowse. You rewind the last copy and you untap 4 lands.
Teferi comes off the top of Ryou Ogura's deck. Now here's an interesting play. Mihara could have gone for that telling time main phase, but he didn't, because, I mean, normally you play that during your opponent's end step, right?
Yeah.
But there's one of them under the Gesture Scepter. Like, I think he's going to get it countered here, where it would have resolved if he just done it main phase. Probably not a card many people have a lot of practice against.
Sure.
Yeah, I think he was supposed to telling time main phase. I mean, maybe he's setting up for Giga Drowse, but... Yeah, he doesn't play it. Okay. Well, that seems better then.
No, he's just going to play for the long game.
Just win it with a big Giga Drowse?
Yeah.
Well, down comes Teferi. That shuts off Giga Drowse completely. Can't play it on your opponent's turn. What was that you were saying about Rewind being the only answer to Giga Drowse?
Yeah.
Teferi seems just fine.
I also mentioned in the pregame that Teferi was a pretty good answer
sure
for him.
Here's
But
telling
again,
time as a response, which is going to get countered by the Gesture Scepter. All right? No reason for... would Ogura rather have his mana? For what? All he's got is a Remove Soul.
He wants to remove Soul, another copy of...
Yeah, but it's Mihara's end step. Isn't it?
It is Mihara's end step.
Yeah, it's Mihara's end step. Of course you counter
Yeah,
him.
absolutely.
He can't go off end step.
Yep.
There we go. A little more of that Nassif style bluffing, I guess. Heh.
Now, Mihara can still build up to the Giga Drowse on his own turn with the storage lands. I mean, we need to find...
Drowse as a sorcery, tap all the blue,
Yes.
declare an attack phase, make you burn,
Yes.
then go off second main.
Absolutely. And he doesn't have a ton of turns to do it.
Yeah, he's got about 5 turns to put that together.
But he only has to tap the blue sources.
Well, depending on what he thinks is under the Gesture Scepter. Gesture Scepter has to make him care about the colorless sources.
Sure.
And if there's a Dragon Storm under there, it's bad news. Or a Seething Song. I mean, I don't know that he has time to build up enough counters to Giga Drowse everything.
No,
you can ignore the Signets, but there's still 6 lands.
He's probably going to have to just go for the blue ones.
And hope there's no relevant spells into the Scepter.
He needs currently a Giga Drowse for 4.
It's doable.
He's got 2 Seething Songs in hand.
Yeah, it's doable.
Still doesn't have the Dragon Storm.
There comes another Signet.
5.
Apparently, John Becker says he put a Dragon Storm on the bottom of his deck with one of those early telling times. That's a little surprising.
Can we see how many counters are on that Calciform Pulse at this point? Is that 4? Flashing back Mystical Teachings. To let him get, a Draining Welk, or... I don't know what he has. We get a Spell Burst.
That's not bad.
Trick Bind. I think that's what he's going to get here.
Trick Bind doesn't do anything against Giga Drowse, does it?
You can Trick Bind the... Oh, no, you can't Trick Bind the Replicate.
That's what I was asking. It's not triggered, right?
Yeah. It's not a
It's just like a... It's not like Storm. I don't think Trick Bind does anything against Replicate.
And if he's got 4 counters on that Calciform Pools, we're pretty close. And he's got another Calciform Pools.
He just needs the Dragon Storm.
Yeah. I think this might be a match that's going to be a little more representative of what you'll see in the metagame at Friday Night Magic.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I think Trisketron's probably a little bit more accessible of a deck, a little more fair of a deck.
Okay. A little more fun.
Yeah, a little more fun.
Dragonstorm's certainly a player.
Dragonstorm's been a player.
It's a lot of fun to shuffle up. It's pretty powerful. Is Ogura looking at Faith's Fetters just to gain some life?
Faith's Fetters to keep the counters off one of the lands.
Seems reasonable.
Sure. Gets 1 counter.
Kind of irrelevant since he taps for 1 anyway.
Yep. Gives him 1 more blue.
Sure. He can color wash a red to a blue now.
This may be what he. So it sounds like this is a matchup where Mihara he's got 2 Calciform Pools in play. So this is one of those matchups where he sideboards in the land. So,
yep.
So perhaps what he feels like he needs to do is he knows there's a Teferi. He knows he's going to have to Giga Drowse and go off on the same turn. He knows his opponent doesn't have a lot of fast threats. He can build up his storage lands.
Yeah, it's all about Giga Drowse for the combo.
Dragonstorm it all up as a Dragonstorm, Giga Drowse, do everything at sorcery speed.
Through a Teferi. 6 counters on that Calciform Pools.
Careful consideration. Can't stop him.
Yeah, I mean, Ogura's digging, but what's he going to find? About the only relevant thing he can do right now is try to get another monster on the board. I'm not sure it's right to take out those Triskelvis.
I don't know that that's right. I mean, maybe I could see taking out 1.
I don't think I'd take out... I mean, maybe the first time... How much experience does he have playing against Mihara playing Dragonstorm?
Right.
right? The way Mihara is playing this game, he clearly just is never going to let Ogura counter a spell.
Sure. And if he can
He's not going to cast anything into untapped blue mana. He's just going to set up Giga Drowse.
Right.
So if that's the way Mahara's going to play the matchup, Ogura should just put every damage source he can. He should, have the blue mana, untapped blue mana. If Mahara's going to put him on permission, there's no reason to bother actually having it in your hand. Mahara's just going to assume that it's there and not cast any spells, so try to get something else useful.
He's got 3 storage lands going now. Well, one of them is fettered.
Well,
but...
he's on 8. He's just running out of time. Teferi's going to drop him to 5. He's got this and then maybe 1 turn. But he has to be a little concerned about. He doesn't know that Triskelevises are in the sideboard, so Mahara's got to be a little concerned about Triskelevis coming down, which can happen end step thanks to Teferi. So he's either got to go for it this turn or next. Looks like the answer is next.
Might as well wait. Get as much mana as possible.
Triskelevis would have been the game there.
Sure.
Would have just ended it. All right, what do you got, Makihito?
What's on the top of your deck this game? I think it was a Dragon Storm.
I think I saw the same flash of red.
I think it was a Dragon Storm. Can he trick bind the removal of counters? No.
Ooh, is that an activated ability?
Yes, it is.
But you can just do it again.
But you can just do it again. It depends on if he goes to remove all the counters or...
Wait, Trick Bind is... Is that split second?
Oh, it is split second.
And then says you can't do it anymore. Shuts it off for the rest of the turn, right?
But mana sources happen before split second.
Oh, taking the counters off is a mana source. So I don't think he can stop that.
How many blue sources does he have to get through here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
It's like 7?
7. 7, and theoretically a scepter, and...
Yeah, if there was a Giga Drowse under the Scepter, that'd be annoying. He only has to stop one of the copies.
It's another exciting
match.
It's
14 mana to put 2 copies of... Like, in theory, to get around the Scepter, he should point 2 copies of Giga Drowse at every blue source. That's 14 mana, which I don't think he can pull off and still go off. Is that telling time?
No, that's Giga Drowse.
Oh, all right. Here we go.
Wish we had the little Moto thing.
Scepter and 4 blue sources, but leave the signets?
I believe he has a second Giga Drowse.
Oh, cute.
So get into a fight over this Giga Drowse. See what you got.
Oh, that's very smart. He gets the Scepter tapped, so that he doesn't have to worry about a Giga Drowse coming out from under the Scepter. He gets the blue tapped, so now he can just go for the Urza lands or whatever. Okay, that's pretty smart. Now that he knows that one resolved, he can be confident in the next one as well.
Enter combat.
There's 2 Giga Drowses.
So does he just remove... Again, he can just remove 5 counters. Giga Drowse for 4 again on all your blue sources. But why wouldn't he do this all before combat?
Inside combat doesn't matter. I don't know.
He can't do it inside combat. There's a Teferi.
Oh. True. Did Ryou float mana?
I assume he floated mana.
No mana floating. Why did he enter combat? Did we hear right? Is he in combat?
John Becker, did Mihara announce that he wanted to enter combat?
No, I think we just misheard something.
Okay, well, it sounded like he said enter combat, but
Yeah,
it may have been something in another language. It sounds like that.
Right.
Like 24-1.
24-1, taps Spain land. Getting his money's worth out of his life total this game.
Sounds like there were some multiple copies involved there.
Yep. I think that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in Japanese. There's basically nothing Mihara can do, right? Can he spell burst with buyback, spell burst with buyback, and still have spell burst?
I guess so. There's still another Giga Drowse after that. He did just use Trick Bind.
Does Trick Bind work against Giga Drowse? What does Replicate say exactly? The forums say it is in part a trigger, and the Trick Bind can counter all the copies it wants. Alright, yep. Forums say it is a triggered ability.
Yep, I'm just checking the rulings on the card.
Oh, but there's Giga Drowse number 3. Oh well. Nice Trick Bind. But I have Giga Drowse number 3.
Trick Bind number 2.
I think they both know that's not happening, having seen their deck lists.
Mihara seems to have, again, if he had to, you think he should have been worried about the Triskelimus, but he's played that he did not have the Dragon Storm.
Wouldn't he have known how his opponent was going to sideboard?
Yeah.
Looked like Ogura pulled some mana. Interesting that Mihara had floating mana, so he couldn't really afford to go into combat. Having gotten through the Trick Bind, though, because of the way Storm works, can't really stop that. Yeah, there it is. Game 2 to Makihito Mihara.
Through a Teferi.
Through Teferi.
With Giga Drowse.
Just waited, and on the last possible turn, drew the Dragon Storm, went off through Teferi. Giga Drowse cleared a pass, and Makihito Mihara is up 2-0. I thought Mihara had the better deck, but I wasn't expecting a blowout. This is a borderline blowout at this point.
Ogura's deck does not really do anything until after the critical turns for the Dragonstorm deck.
Right. So why is Ogura's deck good? How did he get here?
The deck seems to be very, very good against other control decks.
Okay.
But not necessarily very good against combo, possibly not so good against beatdown. Although
it looks reasonable against beatdown.
It looks reasonable about.
And he beat beatdown in both previous rounds.
But I think this deck was designed by the Japanese, by Katsuromori, to defeat a control field, based on whatever knowledge they had in the metagame.
Okay.
And I do not think it's well suited to defeating a combo deck. Certainly if they were concerned about combo, I think they would have some rewinds in the sideboard. Curious to see what Ogura does here now. He's going back to his sideboard. He's changed his mind about something.
Yeah, I think he's supposed to have all the monsters in there.
He is not going back to the Triskelevises.
I mean, Mihara just showed you what his game plan is.
Right.
His game plan is Giga Drowse.
Your game plan needs to be turn 3 Tron, Triskelevis, go.
Yeah. I think so. Mihara played really well that game. Clearly had the whole thing mapped out, had his plan, how to use multiple Giga Drowses to...
Brought in the sideboarded storage lands.
Right.
Sideboarded storage lands so that he would have enough opportunity to draw those,
Yeah.
to draw enough lands and to get enough counters to be able to fight 3 Giga Drowses through a Teferi.
Huh.
Yeah, you certainly...
The average PTQ player running Dragonstorm loses to Teferi plus Trickbind, right?
Sure. I think even the above average PTQ player. That's a really precarious situation to find yourself in, and even with the it was great. And again, the sideboarded storage ones we were asking, like, what are these for? Why are they there? Mihara
gotta
just
root
said,
for the guy with
here you
land in
go.
the sideboard.
Add more land. It's my slogan.
Still, I mean, he only gets up to 25. It's really not that much.
You're more of a 30 land kind of guy, aren't you?
Hey, sometimes.
Ogura is sticking to his guns. Really going gunless. I mean, he's got 2 Teferis.
Does he look defeated to you?
He's got a Jester Scepter. He's got Jester Scepter and decking as an option.
Yep.
And I'm not sure what he should do. I'm not sure if he should bring in Draining Welk.
What does Draining Welk do?
It becomes really big.
Okay. When?
When you cast the Dragonstorm.
You lose when you cast Dragonstorm. You don't have tap mana when Dragonstorm.
Yeah, it's true. It's just.
I mean, it's a
I think
6-1/1.
it's got to be the Triskelevises, the Triskelevi. See how nimble I've gotten with this card
That's
over
much
the
better.
course of the copy. It's been a long day. I've had a lot of opportunity to practice. Yeah, I'm not sure why the Commandeer was still in there. Curious about some of the sideboard decisions. Sleight of hand. 2 games to 0. And then this finals match has just flown by. And that was a long game, and that still seemed to fly by.
Couple of lands for Ryou Ogura.
Copperhead.
There's Circle of Protection red.
That's part of the plan, but again...
Another card that gets defeated by Giga Drowse.
And again, a storage land, a Dreadship Reef.
Go ahead.
Well, we were playing storage lands, Giga Drowse in our Pickles deck, and I was just stunned by how powerful that combination of cards is. 4 main deck Giga Drowse, 4 main deck Halciform pools, and you just build up counters, and against a control deck. Oh, there's a Jester Scepter. What do we get today?
The telling time is response.
What are we hiding on the bottom?
ハンドが4枚ですね。
And what are we feeding into it? Steam vents on top. Rite of Flame on the bottom. What do you get?
And what are we seeing? What cards is Ryou Ogura looking
I didn't
at?
see that time.
Oh, boo.
Didn't have the right angle.
Now we're going to be just as surprised as Mihara.
Mihara plays a slight, setting up his hand.
This is a slight in a telling time.
Mm-hmm. Presumably we'll cast another slight. No.
I think he kept telling time.
He's got the Seething Song. He does not have a Dragon Storm. Seems to only have the Seething Song for ritualing.
He has a Lotus, but he hasn't... why would he hold on to the Lotus?
Huh.
I guess maybe he just assumes it gets countered with the Jester Scepter. Oh, no, it's the same name. It's not the same casting cost. I always make that mistake. So there's a Hellkite under the Scepter. One song. Oh, Giga Drowse. This is exciting. 2 lands.
Pretty relevant spells, but Giga Drowse still beats it.
Well, with nothing in his hand, though, if Ogura can stick another Scepter, he can start really... You know, I mean, he can't aim it in any way. He has no reliable way to steer the Scepter. But, again, he can just sort of luck into, you know, taking key chunks out of the wall of cards that... second Copperhead.
No 5th land, though.
And only one source of colored mana.
Yep. Ships the turn with only colorless on top, but because of the Gesture Scepter, that's still a reasonable permission threat. Mihara's got a fetch land working. Building up counters as he pieces his hand together.
So do you realize that Japanese players will have won the last 4 Pro Tours?
Since when is Jan Moritz Merkel from Japan?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not seeing. I didn't see Koga. Yeah, he's won. They'll have won 3 of the last 4. Sorry.
Usawa,
Kajiharu
80.
80. Yep.
Remember how they
last year's Worlds.
Remember how they got off to a bad start this season?
Yeah.
They actually offered the top 8 in Hawaii.
I just live in an alternate reality where Kenji won that top 8, Randy. I'm in denial. So again, we still don't have these mystical teachings off of. He's completed his Tron.
That helps.
Seems like a great time to have a Triskeletos, doesn't it? He's cast Mystical Teachings for Think Twice.
Interesting.
You can only cast it once, though, with 1 blue. And not this turn.
Ogura untaps, draws. He's got no pressure.
Second Scepter.
Huh.
Telling time. Same plays we've seen.
Ogura looks, checks. Can I counter telling time this game? Thinking about it. As if he would decline to counter telling time here. I might want to counter that one later.
Tell you, for such a long day, this has really been compelling Magic the whole way.
Mm-hmm. We're in Game 3 of the World Championship. It's best 3 out of 5. And Makihito Mihara is already up 2-0. If he wins this game, he is your 2006 world champion.
So Ogura could have spell snared that telling time. Chose not to. He probably figures he has one more turn before he has to really worry about Mihara with the Lotus ticking. Probably like the Asahara's version with clock spinning from, I think it was from Lords of Magic.
Okay.
Lords of Magic tournament. He had clock spinning. You get the clock spin your Lotus Bloom. Your opponent does something the turn before they think the Lotus Bloom's coming online.
Right.
They figure they can compulsive research that turn. You clock spin. You get an extra spell for Storm. You get your Lotus Bloom in play.
All right. Scepter resolves.
Looks like a bunch of blanks.
Got a Teferi, a Giga Drowse, and 3 land.
2 Giga Drowse are down.
It's true.
Pass turn.
Is Dragonstorm going to win the World Championships?
It's the deck people have been talking about since the time shifted set was I guess revealed finally.
Mm-hmm.
And
didn't do that well this weekend.
did not do that well this weekend. It did not do incredibly well at Champs. It did fine, but it's been one of the most talked about decks on
it
various
seems relevant,
forums.
but not broken.
Here's a second blue. Resolves.
Yeah, between the 2 Cop Reds and the Gesture Scepters, Ogura has got enough defense to prevent Mihara from just going off.
Not just the 2 Scepters. It's 2 Scepters that have
Who knows what under them.
2 Giga Drowses under them.
Right.
So it's going to be harder for him to draw those Giga Drowses this game.
Sure, well, my point was kind of that Ogura has put Mihara in a position where he knows he needs Giga Drowse.
Yeah.
He knows he has to set up a big Giga Drowse. The problem, I think, with Ryou Ogura's strategy is that he's going to give Mihara time to set up a massive Giga Drowse.
Absolutely.
Sure, he's stolen 2 copies, but there's still 2 more.
Sure. And
eventually Mihara will draw 1, and Ogura's not doing anything to prevent him from just drawing into it.
Sure, and we're putting counters on the Dreadship Reef every turn.
Right.
They're moving in opposite directions as far as...
It's really weird to me that in this matchup, it feels like the combo deck is better in the late game. Isn't that just perverse?
That is perverse.
It's blue-white control versus combo, and somehow the combo deck seems to have the advantage in the late game.
Looks to see if he's going to counter the Lotus Bloom. Meh. You can have it. More blue mana. We'll get there eventually.
Sounds like Mihara has indeed drawn one of his Giga Drowses. Does not yet have a Dragonstorm, though.
Right. And without Teferi in play, it's not as complex for him.
Yeah, he can do it end step.
To hit the Giga Drowse, sure.
Still have to live a little bit in fear of Trickbind.
Sure.
Trickbind counters the whole thing. Well, counters all but the first copy, I guess. Is that Ogura flashing back Mystical Teachings?
Yep. And he's remanding it. It's a flashback spell, so that's really a hard counter.
Sure. Wow, it's pretty relevant. No Trickbind.
He's got 3 extra blue from the Lotus Bloom. He's going to have 5 counters on the Dread Chip Reef shortly.
I'm really impressed by Mihara's patience.
Yeah. That's one of the things we've certainly seen over the last couple Pro Tours is people upended by impatience.
It's true.
Right, that's
Yettle moved all in on that attack. Gabriel on the Seep in the semis.
Absolutely.
Made an impatient play.
The Stone Rain.
The Stone Rain from, absolutely.
Yeah.
Nick Lovett could have won his match.
You
don't know if he would have still won Game 4 not going first, but...
Completely different top 8.
Could be. Yeah, it could be Lovett versus Nassif. This could easily be Nick Lovett versus Gab Nassif.
And we get a second one of those lands there. Is the official name for those storage lands?
I don't know.
No, you don't have anything clever like Karoo. Battery lands.
I got nothing.
Nothing? All right, storage lands it is.
I mean, Mihara's patient here because he knows to play for the Giga Drowse. Against Nassif, he was patient, holding back the Dragonstorm and just playing out one Hellkite at a time.
Right.
Remarkable patience. There's just no offense coming out of Ogura's deck.
I really wonder if he knew that the Triskelevisses were coming out, if that's just a sort of standard Japanese sideboard strategy that he's aware of. Because, I mean, you have to be somewhat scared of them otherwise.
Yeah.
And again, Ogura has all day. He could have been recursing Triskelevis.
What is he down to for damage? Just like 2 Teferis or something?
He has a Urza's Factory.
Okay.
2 Teferis. And we're out. You know, I think at that point his plan is I'm going to deck you with Scepters, Compulsive Researches. And
yeah, he seems like he settled in to deck him, but I don't like that plan. Seems like his plan boils down to get lucky with Chester Scepter.
Right, absolutely.
I mean, both of these games, he was in position where if he had Triskelevis, he could just attack for the win. I mean, Mihara still doesn't have a Dragonstorm in his hand, to the best of our knowledge.
Right.
But, I mean, he's under no pressure to find it.
We do have
he's
one,
just
I believe.
Calmly drawing Giga Drowse, etc.
Right. We do have one under a Scepter, I believe, right? So...
We have a dragon under a Scepter.
Oh, we have a dragon under a Scepter.
Not a Dragonstorm.
Well, maybe we'll have one under the Scepter.
Yeah, it's funny. Mihara doesn't know what's under there. Like, he's probably thinking, I haven't drawn a Dragonstorm this whole game. God, I wonder how many of them are under the Scepters. So now here comes Scepter number 3, and he's worried. He's worried he's going to lose relevant cards off his library.
He's now eaten 1/4 of Mihara's cards. Right, that's 15 cards. It's 1/4 of his deck.
Yeah, Mihara clearly a little worried about these Scepters. We know they're not really doing a whole lot. They've taken 10 cards, but the 10 cards include 1 dragon, a couple of Giga Drowses, some land. Mihara, let the spell resolve. The CIP ability is on the stack. Is he going to go for his Giga Drowse here?
He has to have the Dragonstorm 6 cards down.
Yeah. I mean, he's also worried about losing too many dragons, right? He has no idea how many dragons are left in his library. This is something you were pointing out earlier. Just the disinformation of the dragons, of the Scepters, leaves Mihara not realizing exactly what's left in his deck.
Right. Without some way to look through your deck, you have no idea what's down there.
Right. I mean, Giga Drowse gets him around the counterspell ability of those Scepters. But he's worried about just, if there's 3 dragons down there, can I actually win? I mean, with the Cop Red sitting there, he needs to win all at once.
He needs to Giga Drowse everything.
Yeah.
And even if he Giga Drowses everything, there's still 2 Giga Drowses.
Yeah, 2 get
hiding
counter.
under the Scepters, under one under each, conveniently enough. So that's 2 lands he can keep untapped.
Yeah. Is Mihara panicking here? Reacting to this Jester Scepter?
I think he is panicking a little. I don't really see.
I mean, it helps that we know what's under there.
Sure.
And he's not really in danger of losing all of something.
What does he gain by doing this? Even if he doesn't know what's under there.
Right.
What is to gain in this situation? I guess by having the scepters tapped, he figures maybe he has just too many opportunities if he top decks.
Why? Does he have Dragon Storm in his hand?
I don't believe he does.
All the lands and all 3 scepters targeted with that Giga Drowse. Ogura can counter any 2 copies. Interesting that he does not know what's under the 3rd scepter as he does this. And Mihara knows that most Giga Drowse copies that can get countered is 2. Unless, I mean, it's possible that Ogura had just drawn his 1 Trick Mind off the top. That would stop the whole thing. But assuming no Trick Bind, Mihara has actually set himself up kind of nicely. Ogura is not going to be able to counter something off of a Scepter because he'd have to stop 3 copies of Giga Drowse to defend a Scepter and the 2 land he needs to. All right, countering a Giga Drowse.
We just had a brief respite of cool air in here as someone handed us some cold sodas, which it's not clear whether we want to drink them or just sort of rub them on our foreheads. So the purpose of this Giga Drowse is I don't want you to hit, if you hit one of my key spells and I rip a copy of that spell, you can't Scepter me?
Yeah, this looks a little panicky. Counters the 2nd copy. Sinks the rest of the mana into the cops.
じゃあちょっと待ってくださいね。じゃあ使った後自分の本体を差し戻したいです。
Oh, he's remanding the Giga Drowse. That's cute. Looks a lot better now. Interesting. I take back everything bad we ever thought about him. This actually gives him almost a free turn. He gets to Giga Drowse everything, and then still keep the Giga Drowse. And get a card. He gets a chance to cycle through a remand.
Look what that card is.
What was it?
I believe it was Dragon Storm.
ちょっと待ってね。トラゴンいなかったら何個なんだよね。
Which, if he hadn't made that play, would be under the Scepter.
That's random.
I'm not saying it's a good strategy.
Gura chose to keep up a couple of Urza lands, not a blue land. Is he on Fultron? Should be, right?
Oh, he's well on Voltron.
Which means those Urza lands, either one of them can fuel a Scepter. I thought Mihara tapped the 3rd Scepter, did he not? Oh, he remanded the original Giga Drowse. So if Ogura had kept a blue open, he could have actually countered that remand. That'd be gigantic. Spell Snare in his hand. Why does Ogura need 2 Urza lands? Is this just a mistake? And now here's a telling time as a response. In addition,
he cracked the Lotus for this.
Yeah, I guess Ogura wanted a lot of protection for Cop Red versus Dragons. Okay, so that Scepter does wind up tapped. Or not. Yeah, Ogura chose to keep Urza lands up so that he can fuel Cop Red. In his mind, he's defending against the Dragonstorm. Using Cop Red to defend against Dragonstorm.
Eli Kaplan, post in the forums and tell us what he's saying.
All right, Mihara's ready to let the Dragonstorm resolve.
This is a very exciting Jester Scepter.
Hoping that this Jester Scepter does not deprive him of too many threats. I saw Lotus Bloom. I didn't see any red. Were there any dragons under there? 1 Hellkite. So 2 Hellkites down, but he's still got the other 2 Hellkites, plus presumably the Hunted Dragons are still in his library. So we know that Mihara's still got 4 dragons he can go get, which is lethal, assuming he Giga Drowses those 2. Draw step. Time to Giga Drowse those Urza lands. God, that remand was a hot little play. But if Ogura had a blue mana for the Spell Snare in his hand, he would have been able to defend 1 Urza land. Alright, there's Giga Drowse. Multiple copies of Giga Drowse pointed at each of those lands. And Ryou Ogura is all tapped out. Makihito Mihara is up 2-0. It's best 3 out of 5, so if he wins this game, he's the world champion. He's maneuvered the game. He's got his opponent all tapped out. The Giga Drowse plan seems to be working again.
Well, he just put his mana through his Cop Reds.
Yeah, no good sources to point it at, though. So does Makihito Mihara have the combo pieces he needs to win the game right here?
I think the answer is yes.
I see right, Seething Song. I believe the back card in his hand is a Dragonstorm.
Maybe it wasn't.
I think he's just opening the storm count.
The storm count's already there.
Well, I mean, Commandeer could mess it up or something.
Yeah, there it is. I see the old black border.
Running up the storm count, hoping he's got enough dragons. It's funny, the only person in the building who doesn't know that Mihara's about to win Worlds is Makihito Mihara. We all know that he's got enough dragons and that this is going to work. Even Ryou Ogura knows that this is going to work. But Makihito Mihara does not. Yeah, here's all the storm. Here's all the rituals. Here's the Dragonstorm.
Well, Ogura doesn't know. He might be hoping that there's some dragons in his hand.
Or the sideboard.
Or the sideboard, sure. He's pretty sure, though. He doesn't feel good right now.
No. Take some counters off.
Especially staring at that Spell Snare.
Yeah.
It's more storm than he has dragons, but, you know.
There's the Dragonstorm. How many dragons? Hellkite. What's your life? 20?
No, there's 200 dragons.
What's he asking about?
I don't know. We need Eli Kaplan to chime in.
ばないといけない。
He's asking about the Cop Red. That's the question.
No, they're not still floating around. Sources chose on a resolution of the ability. Mihara's just wanting to absolutely triple check that Cop Red doesn't just linger as some sort of protection shield.
I mean, it's good. I mean, Magic's such a complex game. There's so many interactions. On cards, you're playing for this much money. You know what? Everybody, including the judge, should make sure.
Black Jester asking in the forums, can Mihara still win? Didn't he just get double sceptered? Yes. Yes, he can.
If there's no source at that moment,
This is like the fourth Cop Red ruling today.
something on the stack.
I imagine there's been a lot of
there's
interaction.
no miracle here.
I imagine there's been a lot of interaction between Giga Drowse and tap all your mana. I'm sure
Here
this
come the
exact
dragons.
situations come up.
Here they come. Hunted Dragon, Bogan and Hellkite, and there's the handshake. Makihito Mihara. Wow, congratulations. You are the 2006 Magic the Gathering World Champion.
Creator of the cow?
Creator of the cow and master of the dragons.
Yeah.
Makihito Mihara with the sweep. 3-0. Taking, master of the Giga Drowse as much as master of the dragons. And he really was the master of the Giga Drowse. He understood what his plan was. He had a plan. He figured it out. He piloted it flawlessly. Great magic from Makihito Mihara. Whew. Mihara did get a little lucky in the quarters, and he did get a little lucky in the semis, but he also played to set up that luck. I mean, that's, I really think, people look at good players, like, oh, Kai top deck the Morphling. It's like, Kai played to top deck the Morphling. Good players will spend many, many turns playing to top deck the card that they need to win the game, and that's what you saw from Mihara here.
It's been a long day, and I can't remember the exact saying, but, people often blame luck on preparation.
Right.
Because if you can get really, really lucky, but, it's not just entirely luck. It's unfair to dismiss it as luck.
Totally agree. Completely agree.
You give yourself as many opportunities as possible to get lucky. It's sort of like the old theory about dating women. People have talked about this, where if you ask out 1,000 women,
okay,
someone's going to date you. It might be the ugliest of those 1,000 women, but it's sort of the same way. As long as you keep giving yourself opportunities to get lucky, you'll get lucky.
Dating advice from Brian David Marshall. Just what you were expecting from the Magic World Championship coverage, right? Wow. We had a lot of great storylines coming into this top 8. This is not the way a lot of people imagined it playing out, but this is the way it's going to be remembered as Makihito Mihara and Dragonstorm. Gabrielle Nassif tried to defend the home turf, came up short in the semifinals. Katsuhiro Mori tried to defend the trophy, came up short in the quarterfinals.
Paulo Vitor Damadurosa and Tiago Chan tried to steal the Player of the Year title
away
out
from
under
Shota
Yasaoka.
Came up short. Quarterfinal exits for both of those guys. Then you got Nick Lovett. Took out Katsu, but then lost in 5 to Ogura in the semis. Had a game. Maybe he could have won. Maybe a little impatient with a Stone Rain. Walked into a remand. Gave Ogura the draw he needed to come up with the answer. Don't know how Game 4 would have turned out, but,
sure.
You throw a game away and lose 3-2. You can't be feeling great about that. You can feel great about being on the gravy train from 0 lifetime pro points, of course.
Absolutely. First Pro Tour gets 5 more.
Yeah, that seems fine. And then Paulo Carvalho from Portugal put up a nice result this weekend in both the individual and the team competition.
Right. Andre Coimbra, Mauricio Carvalho, Tiago Chan, all from Portugal, who've posted top 8s in the last couple of years, continues in their footsteps. Portugal is country to keep an eye on
Absolutely.
for Magic results.
Definitely.
But the story has got to be
Still Japan.
It's
The
Japan,
Japanese juggernaut rolls on. The Japanese win the Player of the Year title in Shota Yasaoka. They win the individual world championship in the form of Makihito Mihara. Runners-up in the team competition. Almost pulling off a just ridiculously unprecedented three-peat. But no.
Camille Cornelissen
and Julian Naughton had something else to say
and
about
Dutch
that.
team did their job, and there's a number of people on the boards who seemed to be looking for the underdog, and somehow the Camille and Julian were cast in the role of underdog. I don't know how that's possible, but
Tournament manager Scott Larrabee is currently setting up for an award ceremony, so we will be bringing you all the big checks and the trophies momentarily. Is that Gabriel Nassif hanging out, waiting to pick up his trophy?
Gabriel Nassif is standing around there. He's got his backpack on. He's ready to get out of here. He's talking to Julian. Hall of Famer Raphael Levy's sort of standing nearby, talking to him, I think.
So what's your biggest memory of this Pro Tour going to be?
Wow. There's so many. It's been such a long week in terms of so much stuff has happened. Again, the Hall of Fame ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's definitely got to be Gabriel. My biggest memory of this event, unfortunately, is going to be it's both positive. It's sort of bittersweet. I mean, it's
right.
Gabriel Nassif stepping up and
top
showing the world
7.
that he is clearly in the top.
One of the top couple players to ever play the game.
Ever play the game, and then to see him, whether it's a judgment call, whether it's just being outplayed by his opponent, I'm not sure, but it's kind of heartbreaking to see. But congratulations to Mihara.
Yeah, I think my biggest memory is just going to be the crush of people inside events.
Oh my gosh!
There have been literally thousands and thousands of players coming through this site this weekend, both watching the main event, participating in the main event, playing inside events. Just an awesome weekend of Magic for everyone concerned.
Sure. Yeah.
All right, looks like we are ready for the award ceremony, so I'm going to send it over to Scott Larrabee, and signing off for Brian David Marshall, this is Randy Buehler. We will see you next time in February from Geneva.